Community leaders are often driven by passion to have a vision for a better future. It's people like these who believe they have the will to make a difference. Hello, I'm Beverley Curry, and welcome to Ordinary People. There are many stories of Bahamians who are determined to bring about change in our inner cities, and it's out of a dire need that change will come.
I've been a problem for the Bahamas for 20 years. You know, I was one of the menace to society. You know, I was a drug dealer, I was a firearm seller, and most importantly, you know, I was a guy who was very cunning, and I used to do a lot of foolishness inside this country, and you know, seeing the loss of life in this particular community, where I've had 30 to 40 of my friends who I grew up with, who have been killed right here in this community, and now I have to hang with their children around in this community. So I feel kind of bad not knowing. I feel kind of bad knowing that this is my friend children. Are they going to end up like us, or are they going to end up like their parents? So I can't let it happen that way. So by all the bad experience that I had from growing up as a child, and myself involved in crime, it is just, how can I explain it? It's just that you have to feel the people suffering, feel the need to separate yourself and say, hey, that's my brothers and sisters out there. Let me give up the wrong that I'm doing now and try to correct this and make the lives better for the next generation of Bahamian people. Because one day, if we keep this rate up, I can't walk these streets and I'll be a target of victim crime.
His past experiences have led him on a path of social change. Former gangbanger Valentino Scrooge Brown is no stranger to the Grandstand area, in particular Lewis Street.
When you look at the news and you see all the crime and the poverty that's happening in the country, so as a young man living in this particular community that's seeing numerous families destroyed through the acts of violent crime, you know, and of abuse, I decided to say, hey, let me make a stand as a person that lives in this community, that experiences this community, that been through this community. So what I decided to do differently from everyone else in the country is I say, hey, let me get some outside help. And outside help means people like Lucas Metropolis, who is from a student of Duke University, and also Pastor Ed Dorset, who is from East Street Gospel Chapel. I wanted our people from around the world to really see the problems that exist here in the inner city communities. So it's essential for me to get that support, because here in the Bahamas, you really can't receive that kind of support like donations and stuff like that when you have an idea that could benefit the entire Bahamas. So these two gentlemen were very instrumental in bringing this what we have here. By them being here, they're my partners now. So the responsibility falls on Lucas and it falls on Mr. Dorset, who's a pastor at East Street Gospel Chapel Church. This is in order to keep me focused, and with them they're guiding me, we can never go wrong.
And that's why Valentino Brown has sought help to cure some of the social ills which plague his community. He feels a community center is desperately needed. Hence, he, along with Lucas Metropolis, Pastor Ed Dorset from East Street Gospel Chapel, and others, have formed Lend a Hand Bahamas.
Lend a Hand Bahamas is a instrument we are using to bring us all together, because we came from different backgrounds, and like Scrooge had his group, A Street Movement for Change, Lucas had his fishing for families in need, and myself being one of the pastors at the church. So we wanted a vehicle that we could come together under an umbrella. So Lend a Hand Bahamas has been incorporated in order to bring that all together, and also to be the instrument where people donate, and when they give their support, they give it to Lend a Hand Bahamas.
The cries are so much that it makes you cry at night. If you live in this community, you would cry at night to see how kids owe 12 o'clock. 11 o'clock, asking for $1 on the side of the road for something to eat. So the needs of the people, it can't come at a more important time right now for us to really consider helping out our brothers and sisters in here who are suffering. I mean, bad. I'm talking about bad.
And you feel that this community center will fill that void?
Of course. The problem is with the Bahamas is that there's no structure inside this community for these kids to go and harness their skills. We've got Debbie Ferguson McKenzie come with this community. We've got Nathaniel McKinney come with this community. Silver medalists, gold medalists, Even Ramon Miller came out of this community right here in this Grandstand community. But they trained in the streets of New Providence. They used to run around the streets barefoot, and we used to support her when we were in gangs. Ramon Miller, when C.I. Walker, we supported them also, but they trained. They trained in the community, right, run around the streets. If there were proper facilities to accommodate, like the community center, this could change everything we do in this country. In fact, we're thinking about transforming this area into a tourist destination to train the kids about the fishing industry, Lucas Metropolis. Then we want out of church with Mr. Dawson here to teach them about Jesus Christ and how important it is to love one another. So we don't want to leave that out. And then me as a community leader to harness all those kids together to bring to the center. And then we're going to teach them art and craft with Antonius Roberts, who's going to teach them how to do artwork, and he's going to sell those artwork to bring a next generation of inner city art students.
This building on Lewis Street is the site for the proposed community center. It was once the home of Pastor Ed Dossett.
My mother, who was instrumental with helping young girls, she had a Hope House is what it was called. She worked with unwed mothers, and she was always involved in working and helping young people, and that's her passion. And of course, she said to me she would love to create a community center. That's before I met Lucas and Scrooge. And somehow we had the same thinking in mind. And as I told you earlier, it was just the providence of God that brought us all together because we were thinking the same thing. And because of that, my mother didn't hesitate to donate the property to the center, to establish the center. Of course, we didn't have the funds to do it, and so the funds is coming from abroad and elsewhere, where we have people who are donating towards the center. We have local donations too, and of course, we're looking forward to more donations as we go along. But that's the genesis of it, that we came to the same conclusion: we need a community center. As Scroogey said, there's no place around here for the young people to go and sit down and do their homework and go and get involved in positive activities. And this is what we're trying to do. Bring some positive activities for these young people who are lost. And when I say lost, you know, they have to find their way. And that's why we're here today trying to drum up support for this venture. The proposed name for the center is Neville and Nora Community Center. That's my father, my mother, and it appropriately so because, you know, we lived here.
Now, Duke University student Lucas Metropolis is on board, having been encouraged to lend his support by a family friend. In fact, he has assisted in a number of communities-based projects in the Bahamas.
Giving back? Yeah, I mean, my father is a pastor. My grandfather was a pastor, so service was always a big component of our family. And I have 5 siblings, and my parents always motivated each of us to do some sort of service, whether it was volunteer at a after-school program or volunteer at the church, do something. And so the inspiration to start my nonprofit in the States that focuses on marine science, that came from a visit here to Nassau in 2007. So me coming back in 2012 was a way for me to then take the inspiration I received from the Bahamas and actually be able to benefit the Bahamas. There's no really central meeting place in this immediate area. There are churches nearby, and there's an urban renewal center nearby, but not in this area. And there seems to be a lot of kids. And they all pretty much congregate right here at Valentino Brown's house. So, and that kind of, I think, inhibits a lot of organizations from coming in and doing a lot more projects. There are projects, but a lot more, because they don't have a central place. So, yeah, so I came back actually in the summer of 2013, and this time with a different focus was, one, to do this project with the kids, the Marine Science Project, because the kids really enjoyed that, really enjoyed going fishing, but also to see if a community center was possible and if it was feasible and needed. So we did that, spoke to a lot of different people, from the Minister of National Security and Urban Renewal to lawyers to realtors to architects, and just determined that it was possible and that sure, it's going to take definitely a strong fundraising effort, but it's something that's needed. I mean, if you look around, you'll see today, if you see the kids, a lot of them wearing the shirts that say they've gone too soon in the picture of their loved one. Just stories like that. Maybe they weren't involved in any sort of gang relations, it was just innocents walking by and a bullet hit them. And stories like that of just tragic accidents that occurred. And also just about a lot of kids in high school, how they drop out in 10th, or like they're getting so close to graduating, but it's just they don't see something after. Like they're following this trend of what society tells them is going to happen to them because they live in this area. And it's like they're not motivated to keep pushing, and so they sometimes do stupid things. Like one kid I spoke to, he got in a fight in 10th grade, and he says that it was something stupid over a girl, and he punched the guy in the face and got expelled.
What have you been telling them?
What do you mean?
What have you been telling them? You're hearing their stories.
Well, I mean, at first I'm shocked. I mean, I'm not like, I was never a sheltered kid, but I mean, I come from a decently nice area of the United States, and just that was never really part of my life growing up. So I don't want to say that I can relate to them, but I can definitely, I guess, sympathize with them, and mainly just giving them advice, just talking with the kids and saying, listen, like you need to realize that there is other things out there. Like you don't have to limit yourself. That's a lot of the mentality, is that I'm here, I'm stuck here.
And plans are well on the way to making the dreams of so many come true, but it's not an easy task.
Different people are pitching in, and so right now we have the plans that are being finalized, and the big thing now is just getting the materials. So whether we've been talking to different people who are thinking about donating the materials, which would be a huge help. So assuming that comes into place, and we're trying to raise at least $40,000 more before we start building. We just received a donation from the Hellenic Ball event, Atlantis Hotel, Wendy's of the Bahamas, and UBS Bank recently. So collectively with that and $40,000 more, and we can start breaking ground.